Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope you all enjoyed your holiday weekend. We now find ourselves all the way in December, and we're on the backside of this year. Another few weeks, we'll be cruising into 2021, and I hope that things are a lot easier in 2021 than they have been in 2020. This has been a very trying year for all of us, I'm sure. I know personally this year has sucked like it has for everybody else. But at the same time, there has been good in this year, right? The fact that Ghislaine Maxwell is behind bars, that's some silver lining, that's for sure. The fact that this case is progressing, certainly something good to take with us into 2021. And hopefully the momentum builds and this stupid-ass pandemic goes away. Ghislaine Maxwell goes to prison for the rest of her life. And the co-conspirators, and especially the core four, well, let's hope they all go to prison as well. And if that's the case, then 2021 will be off to a smoking start. But as we find ourselves in December and we're reflecting back on the year that was, it has been one hell of a ride, huh? Pretty turbulent in life and in this Jeffrey Epstein case. You look back to where we were last November in this case and where we are now, and it is worlds apart. The progress that has been made as far as building a case against these people, seeing at least Ghislaine Maxwell be put behind bars, Wexner stepping down from his company, the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family being pushed back from public life, Glenn Dubin stepping down from his company, Jess Staley under fire, Leon Black under fire, and that's not even getting to the rest of the numbnuts who have suffered serious consequences because of this. So it's crazy to look back where this all started and to see where the case is now. And that all happened through this incredibly weird year. This is one of those years that absolutely has flown by. And while it was all happening, I think back to March, and the whole entire lockdown situation started on my birthday, March 13th of last year. And it seems like we've been in warp speed ever since then. So I hope that the rest of this year continues to go that quickly and we could put it in our rearview mirror and we can build on some of the wins that we have accrued this year as opposed to letting some more L's creep in, right? So hopefully with the holidays coming up, people have a brighter outlook on things, and hopefully we'll see some movement within Congress to take care of the people who are going to fall off of a cliff come December 26th when their PUA insurance runs out, their PUA unemployment runs out. It's going to be a bad scene, and that's not something people should have to worry about going into the holidays. So I would hope that Congress would get their shit together. I know it's a Hail Mary ask, but I would hope that they would get their shit together soon and announce before Christmas that people are going to be taken care of, and those people who are seriously at risk of becoming legitimately homeless are not going to have to worry about that. How about we start off with that in the new year? That would be something to build on, right? These idiots can get together and work something out in a bipartisan manner. And at this point, does it really matter about the debt when it comes to this bill? I mean, come on. I see people pushing back, oh, the debt. Well, let's be real. Trump was spending like a drunken sailor for his whole entire term, and we didn't get any pushback whatsoever about the debt, except from a few people. So let's not hear about the debt now that Main Street actually needs the money as opposed to Wall Street, right? So let's give them their injection. Let's get people taken care of, and let's start 2021 on the right foot. Now, for our article today, we're going to continue talking about Jeffrey Epstein's money and how it was parked offshore. We have an article today from Law and Crime, and this article was published July 18th of 2019. And the headline is Tracking Jeffrey Epstein's Offshore Money Even Possible? And without a great forensic accounting team, I say it's impossible. We all know that Jeffrey Epstein was good at stashing that dough. We all know that. And we all know that it was one of his specialties, right? One of the few things that he was good at was laundering money and setting up shell corporations and making money pump through these shell corporations and into the heart of his criminal enterprise. We know that's a fact. So you would think that he'd really have his shit together when it comes to hiding his money, protecting his money, and laundering it offshore. So let's jump into this article by Matt Klybanoff and see what they have to say about tracking Jeffrey Epstein's vast offshore fortune. A new set of documents released on Thursday seem to paint a clearer picture of Jeffrey Epstein's finances. These papers, obtained by the Miami Herald, were released after prosecutors in the Epstein case expressed their dismay at the vagueness of the report Epstein's attorneys released earlier this week in a bid to persuade the judge to grant Epstein bail. Now remember, this article is from July 18th of 2019. And they're talking about the situation that was surrounding Jeffrey Epstein and his ask for bail. Now, prosecutors were never sold on what they put down on paper, meaning Jeffrey Epstein and his team put down on paper as far as assets. They always thought that there was more offshore, and they knew that Jeffrey Epstein wasn't being forthcoming with his actual net worth. And still to this day, they know that, and you see that. You see that with the way Denise George has been aggressively using her subpoena power to bring in people who were involved with Epstein financially. So they don't believe the picture that's been painted. And while the 634 plus million is a vast amount of money, I believe that there is much more, at least double that. According to the records, Epstein became a client of Applebee, a Bermuda-based law firm specializing in the creation of offshore investment vehicles, in February of 1997. His client profile describes him as a manager of fortune. On the same Applebee's client list, Epstein's former business partner, How about former, confidant, former great friend, former sidekick almost, Les Wexner. So we've been talking about Applebee quite a bit lately in the last couple of episodes. So tonight for the Daily Drop, I'm going to go and set the profile for what Applebee is, what sort of company it is, who started the company, what their role in all of this was, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to set the table tonight for sure. And if there's new news that needs to be talked about, we'll do 3 episodes today. But definitely tonight on the Daily Drop, we're going to set the table and we're going to find out who Applebee is and what they do, because they are a pretty critical player on the stage when we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein's offshore fortune, money that could have been hidden, and companies that we know are corrupt from previous leaks. These documents also show that Epstein was chairman of Liquid Funding Ltd., a company that Epstein's former employer, Bear Stearns, had a 40% stake in until Stearns' collapse in 2008. So Epstein left Bear Stearns all them years ago. There was scandal, there was all kinds of nonsense going on, and somehow he skated by clean once again. And then we have this Liquid Funding, which we talked about recently. I think it was yesterday's episode. and how they were another shell company of Epstein's. So you see how all of this ties together, right? And when we start adding all of the context and we start, building the profile here, you'll see some of these names keep popping up. Liquid Ltd, Applebee, Mossack Fonseca. You'll see all of these different names pop up, and they all tie together. These are the people who took care of the most so-called elite in the world. These are the kind of companies that buried their money. And then the fact that Bear and Stearns still had a 40% stake in a company run by Epstein, no, that's not shady or shisty or troublesome or anything like that. That doesn't warrant any more investigation. I mean, really? What are these guys doing at the Department of Just Us? Are they all on the golf course, or is that only Trump? Because they certainly don't seem like they're doing their job out here. According to Marcus Klug, a former director of Liquid Funding, there was neither a physical board meeting or call between board members. In fact, Klug said he never even met Epstein. So we definitely talked about Klug a little bit last night, yesterday morning, I mean, and we were talking about his role in all of this, how he was like the de facto face of this corporation that never even existed. Then never had a board meeting. Nobody ever met with Jeffrey Epstein, but somehow Liquid Funding is pushing millions and billions of dollars. None of it makes sense. Was that money taxed? Who taxed it? Where's the bill? Where are the bills? Where are the receipts? Where are the accounts paid? Where are the ROIs? Let's see all of it. And I would think that's what a good forensic accountant is doing right now. I'm lucky I can add, 5 plus 5 and get it correctly. So if I'm sniffing this shit out, you have to believe that a good forensic accountant is going hard in the paint on this shit. Still, it's unclear how long Epstein ran Liquid Funding or how much his involvement ties into his losing money during the financial crisis of 2008. That said, Liquid Funding was dealing in risky mortgage securities similar to the ones that caused Bear Stearns to go bankrupt. Yeah, of course, they're the ones who started that shit. They're the ones who manipulated all of that shit. And they're the ones who caused the crash, at least one of the top players. Meanwhile, all of these banks were deemed too big to fail, started by the war criminal Bush and pushed on by Barack Obama. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Rinse and repeat, and it happens over and over again. None of these people really care about Main Street. None of them do. Is it Main Street that sends them to D.C., or is it Wall Street and K Street? It certainly isn't you or I that they care about, folks. Just look at the way they conduct themselves. Look at the things that they prioritize. Epstein's client profile also has references to the amount of money he had in 2 bank accounts from 2006 to 2007. One account was listed with $880,507, and the other with a high of $3.46 million. While a lot of money to the average worker, these sums are far lower than the value of his holdings, which his attorneys claimed is $559 million. And we know that bumped up to $634 million. And the numbers don't add up here, right? If you have the kind of money Epstein has, you only have $880,000 in one account and $3.46 million in the other? That doesn't seem to make sense. Where's the rest of your money then? Where is the rest of your money if you're worth $559 million and there's only roughly, 4.2 million accounted for? You must have a whole hell of a lot of artwork, huh? Like your buddy Leon Black. These people are so transparent once the curtain gets pulled back. Once you start to get a little look-see behind the curtain, once you accept that red pill from Morpheus and take a look behind that curtain, there is no coming back, folks. Because none of this shit adds up. None of it jives. And there is no way that there's this many coincidences. Epstein's documents went public in 2017 when the Paradise Papers were sent to German newspaper Süddeutsche Zeitung. A representative with Applebee reached out to say that the data hack was a criminal act, the work of a sophisticated cyber criminal, and did not involve anyone at Applebee leaking the documents. You see, that's what they care about the most at Applebee. Oh, cover our asses. We didn't leak it. Someone hacked it. Sure sounds like a narrative that we heard for the past 4 years, huh? These people are sick, right? People like this company Applebee, these sort of law firms, they need to be held responsible because they're basically co-conspirators to these criminal organizations. When they start flinging this money around and they start protecting it, what would be the difference if I was an accountant and Sammy the Bull came to me and asked me to cook his books and I cooked them for him? What would be the difference? Oh, what, I'm not some powerful law firm who has friends in the Just Us department? So screw me, throw me right to the wolves, right? 15 years mandatory, RICO charges, criminal charges, you name it, I'd have it. But these banks, bah. Go ahead, man, finance El Chapo. Go ahead and give that money to some Nigerian warlord who's riding through villages decapitating people. Yeah, no problem. Let's facilitate his money, though. And people like the folks over at Applebee play a huge part in this shit. Still, within these documents, there isn't much information, and there's no discernible reason why the documents single out Epstein's bank statements during the 2006-2007 timeframe. That is interesting, and more of a look at that is warranted, I think. A little dig deeper, perhaps. On another client sheet, Epstein is listed at his St. Thomas address. He's also listed at 457 Madison Avenue in New York, which is the location of a historic home in the Villard houses. This home is currently owned by the Sultan of Brunei. That's interesting, huh? Well, we don't think Jeffrey Epstein was palling around with the Sultan of Brunei? Sure he was. I'm almost positive of it. We know that the Sultan of Brunei is a, let's just say he has himself his own proclivities. So it would not shock me to see Jeffrey Epstein hanging out with a man who has a harem, right? Perfect. I wonder how that deal went down. I wonder how much that was sold for. And I also wonder why we haven't heard more about that, right? That's something that you would think would get more traction and there'd be more kicking of the tires there. Or perhaps people have kicked the tires there and I missed the boat and it turned up nothing, which is quite possible as well. But when it comes to people like the Sultan of Brunei hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, yeah, pretty sure they were hanging out because at the very least they're fellow travelers. Correspondence with that address is directed to Harry Beller, who, at the time, worked for a New York strategy group, a financial advisory firm for the uber-rich, according to the Miami Herald. Someone at Beller's current employer, Louis J. Septimus and Company, said that Beller worked as one of Epstein's accountants. Boy, Epstein sure had a lot of accountants, didn't he? He sure had a lot of accountants. Khan, Mr. Beller, the other lady, I'm forgetting her name right now. You know, a whole lot of accountants. And how many of these accountants have been brought forward? How many of them have been put under oath? How many of them have sealed indictments? We don't really know, right? We know that we haven't seen any of that. But what's going on behind the scenes, well, who the hell knows? And if this is a robust investigation the way it should be, and if it's being pursued vigorously the way it should be, then all of this stuff is occurring behind the scenes. And all of these people are going to be in the crosshairs. While the intention behind ordering the release of these documents was to get a clearer picture of Epstein's finances, they seem to obfuscate that picture further. And in hindsight, when you look back at it, there's no doubt, right? There's a lot. There's layer upon layer, and every time you peel one layer back, it seems like another one grows automatically in its place. So The financial aspect of Jeffrey Epstein and his crimes, it's going to be the ties that bind. And that's why I'm focusing so much on it right now. And I think, like I talked about a month and a half ago, I think we're going to be focusing a lot on the financial aspect of the crimes here on the podcast moving forward, going back and using some of these older articles to continue to build this profile. Because, as you all know, I believe that this is certainly the most plausible avenue to bring these people that Jeffrey Epstein was involved with, even people that were just enabling financially, to some kind of justice. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. And to all of you who have donated to the podcast, I appreciate each and every one of you. All right, folks, we'll be back later on tonight with the Daily Drop. And like I said, expect us to build a profile on Applebee and just exactly who these people are. Until then, folks, enjoy your day.